Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MMO class meeting number 6. Today, joining us, we've got Mr. Lee Renaud. Lee?
Hello, how's it going?
Good. We've got Mr. Derek Stevens.
Hello, hello. Pleasure to be here.
And also, as always, Zach Farish.
Hey.
And myself, Jason Busby. So, first thing up, what we're going to be discussing today. First, I want to spend just a second talking about this weekend and the video player system. Then we're going to spend a little bit of time with Lee and discuss some of the upcoming sessions that we'll be recording. Once all of that is complete, we will then hand everything over to Zach. Zach is going to give us story time again with an introductory reading to a storyboard-like vision of gameplay.
Yeah, it's a gameplay read-through.
Yeah, but only up to a certain point, and even then, it's a
draft.
It's still rough. Yeah, it's still very much a draft. There's still things that we would like to get changed. We've simply not had the time. This weekend, I got to work with Lee all of Saturday night, which was great, getting the first part of the most recent session recorded, and then spent some time with Angela, and then early Sunday morning it was off back to the hospital with Megan. She was having some problems, and we spent the rest of the weekend at the hospital. So by the time we finally got home, I died out and did not recover until Monday morning. And now it's been playing catch-up, where I was intending to spend Sunday with Zach and do the higher quality recordings of the story read-throughs that have been completed so far. But I wasn't here, and we were not able to get to it. And then Monday, Lee and I needed to finalize the recording for the new session. So we got that knocked out, and then I needed to get everything encoded and put up for you guys, and that has been all finished, taking us now up to 84 videos, and I have no idea at the moment how many hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of content that we have, but it's
lots.
It's going to be quite a bit. So anyways, my daughter just Skyped me. That kind of threw me off for a second.
I wouldn't click on it.
No, it's a link. I'm not going to click on it.
Yeah, I really wouldn't click on that at all.
Exactly. So MJ Mac 87 says we're going to need subcategories in the categories soon. Well, actually, you're right. We do need some sort of system to simplify finding things. But at the same time, we really need everything to be going into Chapter 2 at the moment. Don't forget that we do run this entire MMO class on a new token-based system, since this is not something that we charge extra for. It's just a member sponsor perk. Just the key thing is simply being able to get into the class. If you give up the class at some point and you leave out for a few months and then you come back, you don't pick up with access to everything. You just pick up with access to where your tokens bring you up to.
Where you left off.
Exactly. And that's very important to keep in mind, because we've already had one person very upset and another person a little upset that when they had to go back on a waiting list. Now they're back into the class. And I do not see the one person who is a more regular in the classroom today. But just a reminder that we're going to stand by the token system. Now, we did send out a newsletter last night. We don't do that often, but we are going to open up the seats once again, since the classrooms have quieted down just a bit. And I really liked it when we had to get up and read through 600 posts. That was pretty fun, actually.
I actually tried to breathe some more life into the story and lore forum, and I got a couple of takers.
Yeah, but we really want to see the classroom just going with the kind of steam that we had originally. And not that it's any surprise that things die down. It's how it goes with every single class. There's always the excitement of the first week. Everybody then falls into the groove. They're happy to be there. They've expressed their happiness and their thoughts, and then they go on about real life again. But for us, this is our real life. This is what we invest all of our time into doing for the most part. So we're going to open the class back up just until the end of this week. Then we will close it down and stand back by the list, but this is giving an opportunity for the people that were, the list was growing. I was quite surprised. You guys already got about 30 new people that were member sponsors wanting in the class now into the class. So hopefully we'll see some of these new people getting involved and posting. So there's just a quick heads up as far as the class and what's coming, as far as the better system to allow us to categorize stuff. Like I said, I completely agree, and we'll spend time on that soon. The first thing up is the video player system. Nelson and I spent a little bit of time with it last night. Tonight we're going to be spending all of our time with it. It doesn't happen for everybody. For some people, they have problems with the repeating. If you have low bandwidth issues, that's a big concern, really more so from your end, because there's not much we can do about it, because the new security system that we're using does require one to really have a more of a high-speed connection than a dial-up type connection. I apologize for that, but that's just the way it's going to have to be. As far as the repeating issues and all, we are working on that. And Gavin, I see you posting in the IRC, my friend. I just looked over there, saw some purple. Gav weeps. I'm sorry. I know your internet stinks, but we're doing what we can to ease things for you guys the best that we can. So with that, let's go ahead and move over to Lee's world. As you guys know, we did put the most recent session up, R&D session, where Lee finally got rid of 99.9% of all of the magic numbers, which made me a little happier. He even took a step beyond and created a very simple config system that allowed him to keep all of the settings in an ini file. Isn't that like so 1992, Lee?
Yeah.
I remember there was an ini file like with Unreal, like UT99, wasn't there?
I could have saved it in XML, but I hate XML. So
I know you do. All that extra overhead and all. I'm just giving you a hard time, Lee. It's just when you first said, yeah, and we're saving all of this out to an ini file, I was like, qua? An ini file? Wow, I haven't heard one of those in forever.
Yeah,
and
XML
Neil
is
says, much more elegant. Yeah, with 12 times the bloat.
Exactly.
That's okay, Lee. We could rename it to .conf, but because a config file would make a lot of sense. But Lee is so 1988 that it's a-okay.
Really?
Lee.
So Borderlands is 1988?
Oh, look at Lee trying to pull out the big gun.
I'd say, well, it was probably coded by people who started coding in 1988, and that's not necessarily a problem. I'm just saying.
All right, so
Modern games still use any file, so.
Anyways, no, I'm very, very happy with the way you've set it up and how easy it is just to go in and add any kind of settings we want. Then those settings appear in the dictionary, and everything's perfect. So very good stuff, Lee. Now let's go ahead and start talking about what we've got coming up. Though, real quick, for those of you that did not know that we had the newest post, I did make the newest update to the video section. I did make a post about that yesterday, and head on over there and try to keep up, because we've been putting content out hardcore. Like I said, 84 videos in a month. I'm pretty proud of that. All right, so coming up, session 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There may be some adjustments as to what gets recorded first. We are kind of rocking back and forth with what session 4 will be. It's rather going to be the multi-threading system, or it's going to be sculpting. If it is the sculpting system, data persistence will need to be next, and that's just client-side data persistence at the moment. It's being set up with stubs so that we can easily integrate server-side stuff in place with it. But right now we just want to keep everything nice and easy on the client as we develop forward. But we do need to get data persistence right behind sculpting so that the modifications that you make in real time do persist. So Lee and I are still kind of going back and forth. What's your thoughts again, Lee?
Well, a lot of it is mostly with the multi-threading. I know you and Nelson both want to get a chance to look that over, but you guys are buried on trying to get the video stuff going. So while you guys are still working on that, if I get the sculpting and the persistence up and running, then that'll be the next thing to go. But if you guys get a chance to go over the multi-threading stuff, then the multi-threading will probably be the next set to get put up.
Okay. Now, well, with the multi-threading, there's two things that were of thought to me. One, I wanted to just look over the way that you're doing everything with Unity, because of course we're doing multi-threading with Unity is interesting. There's considerations that must be taken into account. There's also the concern that starting with, I think it was 3.2, and it persists with 3.3, and that is some mess up that has occurred in the Unity code that causes a very unique garbage collector error to rear its head and cause Unity to crash out after using a multi-threaded system. It's a bit of a pain because to really test it, it requires you to build out your game or your application and then work it in standalone where it is extremely stable and it's not going to blow up. Lee, you've run it for like, what, 30 hours with multi-threading?
Yes. Yep.
No problems whatsoever. But having to build that out every time would be a bit of a pain. So the longer that, or the further that gets put down the road, I'm hoping that Unity comes out with a 3.4 that fixes that issue. But we'll see. If not, again, we will simply build it out so we don't constantly run the risk of blowing Unity up. Because like I said, once in standalone, it works great. Now, with sculpting, for those of you that are joining us and you're not familiar with what we're talking about, that is the goal that we're working towards with the new custom terrain system that we're going to be using inside the MMO, as opposed to the terrain system that Unity provides. We want to have the ability to push and pull and smooth, basically sculpt our terrain, but we want to do that in a multiplayer type environment, if you will.
To multiple people sculpting.
So multiple people sculpting at the same time. But it's all just a matter of working our way up to that point. So yeah, as MJ Mack just said, a collaborative environment. Beautiful words, my friend. Beautiful words. That is exactly what we are heading towards. So I'm really excited about getting the sculpting stuff in place. Also, give me 1 second. There we go. I'm just going to temporarily mute Derek just to cut down on the extra noise that we're picking up, but I'll unmute him when we get back over to the art side in just a few minutes. Okay, so with sculpting and data persistence, Lee, talk about, because I know at the moment you're reworking some of the stuff that you've got in regards to sculpting, because you do have sculpting at the moment. You don't have data persistence, but you had mentioned to me in a conversation earlier today that we're looking at another 16 to 20 hours of video for sculpting and data persistence. Talk about that for a few minutes.
Probably. Yeah, I'm just guessing off the top of my head, but considering the fact that I'm just now, all day today has been rewriting the sculpting system, and I've already added 11 new classes to that system, which is over doubled the number of classes that have been in the train system up to date.
Right. We don't have a lot of classes in the train system, really.
Nope. So this one's adding a whole lot, and some of them are really simple, and a lot of them are cookie cutter. So after we do the first one, the next ones are really similar, and mostly with like the brushes and the sculpt tools themselves. So the system is being designed so it's replaceable. You can write your own tools, make a class for them, plug them in, and then set the terrain sculptor up so it can utilize those tools as needed. And then those tools can be driven by brushes, which are, again, pluggable. So you can plug in a brush into the terrain sculptor for the sculpt tools to work. Or the plan is when we get to the texturing part of the system, the same brushes that we use for the terrain sculptor will be usable in the terrain painter.
Okay.
So we don't have to reuse the code. And then once we get into persistence, I'm guessing there's going to be quite a lot of additions as far as more classes go. And then we have to get into the ability to compress the data, or actually take the data that is being generated by the sculptor, massage it into a format that we want to save it, then compress it, and then save it out to a hard drive. But we also have to make that stub class that will be able to feed either the persistence to disk or persistence to a server if we need to.
Right.
So everything that we design is going to be written in such a way that it doesn't really care where we save it. We can move it one place or the other when the server side stuff becomes available.
Now, MJ Mac 87 asks, is there tools besides the brush one and smooth, such as level,
Yeah, actually, right now
ramping, etc.?
I have a lowering sculpt tool, a raising sculpt tool, I have a smoothing sculpt tool, and a leveling sculpt tool planned. I don't have anything else at this point. But like I said, the way the system is set up is we can then go at any point and add more tools. So you can set up any number of tools that you want to put in. There's no limit. It's just a matter of how you want to define what a tool is going to do, and then set up some sort of key combination to activate that tool. Or if and when we get to the point of adding a UI to it, it'll probably be a button that you click on that'll activate which tool you're using. So yeah, there's completely the possibility to put in something like a ramp, or we already have leveling. So
Right.
anything's pretty much possible at that point.
And Leonard says, so you might be able to create rakes using alphas?
Absolutely. All right, I've already done something similar with the noise map. So if you wanted a rake, all you'd have to do is make your alpha stencil have 4 or 5 little dots lined up in a row, and you've got yourself a rake.
Very nice, very nice.
Cool.
So, so right now, how many classes are you looking at with the sculpting system?
Right now, without even getting into the persistence
Right.
and the encoding stuff, I have 11 new classes.
Okay. So I think you were saying earlier you were looking at 20 plus new classes once we get the data persistence in place as well. So
yes, probably.
So basically, what we'll do is once Lee gets, like he said a few minutes ago, he's spending today beating the crap out of it, just getting it reworked, because as the R&D has moved forward from Lee working on things to then Lee and I recording things, things do get changed on the fly during the recordings because it's still an organic process. And then Lee has to take the code base that's been recorded here and migrate that back over to what he's doing, because of course he's working beyond where we're actually recording at. So yeah, I guess those changes, I mean, they're going to happen, but once he gets all of this stuff rehammered out, then we'll I'm still thinking, Lee, it's going to be sculpting is going to be coming up first for recording. And,
okay.
and then data persistence. We'll get to multi-threading. I'm still really hoping that we see an update to Unity and that multi-threading issue, the garbage collection issue, getting fixed. So let's see, data persistence, multi-threading. All right, so that's looking at session 4 for the sculpting system, session 5 for data persistence, client side again. Moving over to session 6 would be multi-threading. Spend just a minute and talk about the sky system and day and night cycles, because this will bring us up to session 7.
Right. Okay, before I go into that, I wanted to address Neil's comment about using Dropbox. Actually, we don't want to do that because Jason's code the code that's on Jason's machine is in a very specific spot at the end of a video series. And when we come back to the next video series, I expect and rely on that fact that it is in that state. So when we continue forward, I can move from the state that that code was in the last video that you guys saw. If we were working on the exact same code between the two and it came time to record a video, then we would be going, oh yeah, we added this, this, and this, and we'd probably miss a bunch of stuff. So that's why we develop it in two different code bases.
I mean, we could use Dropbox to simply put the finalized one up there, but I mean, it's no different than Lee has a special box on 3D Buzz as well that he utilizes. It's a no big deal type of thing.
Right.
But go ahead, Lee.
Now I was going to say, as far as the Sky system, with that series of videos, I'm looking at instead of using Unity's Skybox, which I pretty much hate, looking at switching up to a Sky Dome type system. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a dome that's around the world, but instead of mapping a texture to it, I'm going to look at using a shader that calculates the sun's position in the sky as well as where you're looking at the sky. So the shader will do all the math calculations and color the sky dome. So it will take inputs from some sort of file. So if we wanted to have some funky color sky gradients, we'll be able to do that. But we'll also be able to get some interesting effects with the sun and moon in place and get the really dynamic looking skies as opposed to relying on an image, which sometimes doesn't look the best.
No.
As far as clouds, that will be addressed later. What I want to look at with the sky system is just a way to get a dynamic sky dome going with the color gradients changing for the time of day, and then probably a sun and a moon going for now, at least until I go back to school and get that advanced degree in mathematics to figure out how Zach's gas giant multiple star systems or multiple binary suns will all work together. So.
I came up with it just for you, man.
I remember, I know you did.
Yeah, well, you were doing the whole Minecraft thing, and you had the great night-day cycle, and you were so proud of it. And you'd said, it was really clever and actually really easy when you got right down to it. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, how can we make it no longer quite so boring for Lee? So
yeah, let's put 4 different light sources in the sky. Have a good day.
With multiple orbits.
Yeah.
From multiple pivots. It'll be great.
Now, also, just to make sure everybody's clear on this, when you're talking about the sky system, we're not talking about the weather system. There will be a weather system.
But what? But the weather's in the sky.
There will be a weather system, but it's just that. It's its own system.
Okay.
So, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm just...
I know.
Doing what I do.
Oh, so anything else about... I mean, so far, the little bit of playing you've done with the sky stuff that other people have not yet had an opportunity to see, I've thought was pretty impressive. Looked good.
Well, that was kind of just a cheat.
I know it was, but it still looked good.
Close to where I'm going for now. So, and it works. And Niels is like going, volumetric clouds? Yeah, if that's all you want is volumetric clouds, sure, we can do it.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a game with your volumetric clouds, probably not.
We're not writing our own engine, so we still are, limited to scripting. And Lee's already doing all sorts of tricks to come up with our own stuff to push beyond what Unity provides with their default systems. And it's going to continue that way with some of the stuff I've seen that he's been just kind of toying with lately, just as a proof of concept for me, which I'll go ahead and mention, which brings us up to session 8, and that's going to be the ground cover system. Basically, it is it's everything that you would have on the ground that is non-collidable with a character.
Like grass.
Such as grass,
flowers,
plants, weeds, etc., etc.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. I don't know how that came to your head, but okay. So you want to talk...
Really little ones.
Want to talk a little bit about that, Lee?
About dinosaurs?
No, Zach.
Really little dinosaurs?
Yeah.
It's basically what I have in mind for that system is going to create a quad class that just defines obviously a quad. Simple two triangles, and from that I'll have several different patterns that will represent different types of configurations of grass, similar to the little Christmas tree type effect that you used to see in old games. Little triangle patterns, some offset ones, so we can have a little bit complex shapes, as opposed to having a quad that always rotates the face of the camera.
Right.
The reason why is we're not going to be able to take all these quads and check them and make sure that they're always rotated directly at the camera unless we switch over and do it GPU side. So if I've got some quad prefabs almost that we put together, we can then use a procedural or a pseudo-random number generator to pick up what configuration of quads to use, pick a type of material or a texture off a texture atlas, and then take some values from our terrain, such as height and slope, as well as eventually what type of climate we're in as far as altitude, or not altitude, but longitude, latitude type positions on our world, to try to come up with some mechanism for populating our world with foliage.
Right.
Without having to go in and hand paint all this stuff down. So I figure if I can do that and you reference a texture atlas, my guess is for grasses and stuff, probably a single 2K texture would give me, what would the 64 256 by 256 textures that I could play with. So with a single texture, I could represent up to 64 different types of grasses, bushes, weeds, plants, flowers, whatever.
Right.
And then have the system procedurally decide what's going to go where, and then just throw that all in. That's what I'm thinking off the top of my head. Whether or not it's actually going to work, I won't know until I start coding it up.
Gotcha.
But
also, real quickly, I just wanted to throw out, a lot of people in the IRC say that your volume is fluctuating, and I've heard that as well. I would assume that in your webinar panel, if you go up under audio setup, you probably have the auto adjust your volume, your mic volume turned on.
Which is analogous with please destroy my audio quality. Just hook it up to a random sine wave. It'd probably be just as effective.
Awesome. And Lee's house explodes.
I was going to say, and then Lee blows up his computer trying to figure out what's going on.
Are you there, Lee?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did you turn it off?
Well, once you open up audio settings, the mute button automatically gets muted.
I got
Excellent. You. Going from a sine wave to a square wave.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. All right, so I'm sorry. Now, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you go ahead and finish up about the system.
All right. Well, that I'm looking at trying to set up for performance-wise a single object per patch. And then if I can pull all that off, we're talking about the ability to get all of that going with 2 draw calls per patch for all of the foliage on a patch. And then each patch has its own, but instead of allowing every single patch to always be drawn, which can rack up the draw calls fairly quickly, I'll set up a distance metric that will turn those patches off if they're more than, say, one whole patch away from the main character, and then probably go into the shader itself, customize this shader so it takes the player's or that quad's or vertex location, triangle location, from the camera's position, and if it's beyond a certain point, start fading it out to nothing.
Okay.
So
Let's see. And ground cover system is going to be around session 8. Now, we won't discuss some of the things you've been doing just as quick tests with the trees, other than to say, very cool. But that's all we'll say right now.
Dinosaurs.
And the mini dinosaurs. Jeez.
Yeah.
We'll never show you miniature dinosaurs again, Zach.
Sorry. You get me all excited.
So that brings us to a close on all that. Anything else you want to say? Or before we move on, is there anyone in the IRC that has any questions right now that they want to just toss into the IRC for Lee regarding the upcoming or current sessions that are available for the terrain R&D? Now's a good time to go ahead and toss it in.
Has anybody watched all of the new ones?
I know. Lee told me this morning Gavin's already watched them all.
Yeah, but Gavin's special.
Gavin's special.
I mean anyone but Gavin.
Mac said he wrote a question a few up. Post it again, man. So much to scroll through.
Oh, man. Well, it looks
no,
like...
the utils class was not written to fix the threading problem. They were written to compensate for the lack of being able to call those particular functions from inside of threading when we get there. Everything that we did, well, not everything, most of everything that we did inside of session 3 was to get the code base ready to handle multi-threading when we get to that part of the sessions.
Right. And 1 second. All right, Wolfrey, thank you very much for reposting that.
Here, I'll read that one for you.
Okay.
I have a question. I know the minimap solution at the moment is a quick job, as I implemented it just to get a sense of direction and position in regards to the terrain size. What I want to know, is it possible to create a WoW minimap without having to get Unity Pro?
Yes, you can do it. Is it a pain? Absolutely. I had to write a bunch of helper little scripts to position the camera for me in steps so I could take a screenshot, which I could then save to my hard drive, which then I had to go back and crop and then stitch and put together this nice little mini-map set of textures.
It's actually amazing. After all this time, when he starts going off on tangents like this, I have a filter that switches on in my head. Because it's just like Lee into fussing. Well, you know the word I'm going to use.
Yeah.
It's just Lee going into that mode. And it's like my brain, I can't even hear him right now.
Yeah, Lee, but don't we want to do something like that in the end so that we can zoom in and all? I know Lee's answers. Hell no, because, blah, 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 blah. We've got 2,100 square miles and blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's how I hear it.
We're not all, yeah. Just, rah, rah, rah.
But it did give us, in the MMO tech, it did give us the ability to zoom in, and we saw all of our trees and everything. It looked absolutely beautiful. I'm just saying.
It'll work.
So what you do is you do it in-game, and we design one of our high-tech drones, and we send that drone out to map. Ooh, make that as part of the game. So
Sweet.
if you want a more serious mini-map, you...
Pilot a drone?
Yeah, you just get a drone out there to record
Like an
it.
AR
You get
drone.
a basic mini-map.
Hey, no, that's a good idea. And for research, we should all get AR drones to see how the technology would work. Because then they'd be tax write-offs. Because we need them to make sure that that would actually work well for a game.
Sir, I like your thinking. High five. Very cool. Yeah, R&D, honestly. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, it can be done, though, MJ Mac. That is what Lee had done for the MMO tech test that we had originally put together, and it looked really, really nice. Well, not at first when the stitching wasn't perfect. You could see the little rips and all, but it looked really nice once it was done.
Or the scaling was off.
Or the scaling was off. Lee, I am not standing on the front of this ship like it says I am. Or why does it say I'm in the ocean? I'm back up here in the jungle. I don't get it. Oh, good times. So,
I mean, you don't have to use render to texture. I mean, theoretically, it could all be pre-recorded images. I mean, just that. I know they're not easy to put together.
Hey, you know.
But no matter how much Lee wants to explode, I mean, technically, that's how one would go about doing it.
Yeah, that's how we had to do it before.
But
we actually wrote scripts take little shots and then save it to the hard drive, and then bring it into Photoshop and cut and stitch them all back together, and then offload them back out so we could put them back into Unity.
Yeah,
That was with our little tech demo, and that took
Yeah.
pretty much half a day to assemble. So I can imagine what that would be like in our full world.
Come on, Lee. Have heart.
Oh.
What did I say to you yesterday? Why is it everything I ask you about doing, you respond with negative, 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 negative? I'm just kidding.
It's not negative. It's called reality. And I'm just
saying, yeah, but then, hang on. You call it reality, but then you go off and you kick some cans, you throw your cat against the wall. I don't know what you do, but then you come back a little bit later and you go,
I feel inspired.
I feel inspired.
Yeah.
I thought about what you said, and I thought about how stupid it was, and then I came up with this idea. And look at this. It's exactly what you asked for, except even better. Now worship me. I mean, I have heard that.
Yeah, actually.
So
Praise me. Praise me.
So yeah, I'm going to continue throwing these things out. I'm going to continue listening to you gripe about it for the simple fact that I'm going to get what I'm wanting, and I'm going to get more.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep griping about it. So, you get what you want. Let me gripe and shut the hell up.
It's just part of Lee's creative process.
It is.
That's how he does his job. There's got to be a good hour or 2 or possibly 4 of good, solid griping. And saying that it can't be done.
Climbing Mount Everest, it's not worth doing, okay? So.
And by God, if it's not Everest when we started, he will make it Everest before we're finished.
Yeah.
Sometimes literally.
So, yeah. Wait a minute. Guys, we're kind of going into radio show mode here. Should we disconnect him, Zach?
We're just discussing things.
Yes, we are.
Anyway.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say, Lee?
No, because I don't want Zach to tune out for the rest of the class.
Well, if all you're going to be doing is complaining, then I'll probably tune out. But anyways, what else is there? I mean, do we have any more questions from folks?
I do not kill a kitten every time Lee codes. It's every other time. No, I don't. All right, so at this point, that, I guess, will take us to everything that I wanted to cover there. And this is going to move us into Zach's world. So we're going to go ahead and stop the video here. That'll give everybody a chance to take a 5-minute break. When we come back, first thing Zach's going to do is read the gameplay storyboard, kind of like a playthrough, but through storytelling. And it's only kind of the opening of the game, really. And
yeah, it'll probably take you a lot less time to play through it than it's going to take me to read it.
Yeah, that depends, though. But it's still in a rough state, but we decided to go ahead and share it with you guys today just to give you kind of an understanding of where we are planning to go with this. So with that, that is going to wrap up this video, and we'll see you back in 5 minutes. Thanks a lot.